Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 25th RNCI, Red Nation International Film Festival, and our Red Nation Indigenous Filmmakers Lounge. And today we are spotlighting the film, The Dark Divide. And we have our guest filmmaker, Tom Putnam. Am I saying your last name correctly?
Close, Putnam.
Putnam, okay. And so we'll go into that, but I'm going to share with you a little bit about, we're on day, what's today? day 18, I believe. So our festival runs until the end of the month in celebration of American Indian Heritage Month. And it's been a gorgeous 18 days. We've had so many events and a conversation series and with our filmmakers and screenings. So you can go to Red Nation FF and watch 105 films, 73 documentaries, 35 directed by women, 12 student films, and 10 experimental. And then on November 29th is our RNCI Red Nation Award ceremony. And that's going to be absolutely gorgeous. And you could get a ticket at rednationff.com. It is not going to be a live Facebook feed, so it's going to be exclusively broadcast on Red Nation Television Network. So it's going to be a special, limited seating. I'm saying seating, but it's like virtual, so it's limited. And then on November 30th, we're going to close the Heritage Month and our festival with a concert series, because that's how Red Nation Celebration Institute started, was with a concert series. And it's artists in solidarity for creating systemic change through arts, music, media. And we have Joe Walsh, and we have Jennifer Warrens, and we have, Tom, didn't you introduce us to Samantha?
Yeah, Samantha Crane. Who's amazing.
Yeah. And we have Hook Herrera, and we have Joanne Shenandoah, and the list just goes on and on and on. But visit rednationff.com. Okay, got that out there. So,
and 25 years, congratulations. That's amazing.
Thank you, Tom. Yeah, it's been quite, it's been really quite an experience. You know, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of films and filmmakers throughout this 25 years. And it's really outstanding how many filmmakers and how much talent there really is out there that even the industry is not aware of, nor, you know, the general public, right? So everybody, I want to introduce to you Tom Putnam is he's an editor, producer, writer, director for this. I know it sounds like what we do over here. Wear a lot of hats, but that's a good. And it's The Dark Divide, and it is a gorgeous film. It's stunning, and it's based on the story of a renowned butterfly expert, Robert Powell, and who's played by David Cross, the actor, who embarked on a life-changing trek through one of America's most important unprotected wildlands in the summer of 1995. So it's starring David Cross, Deborah Mensing, Kimberly Gallego, Gary Farmer. You know, Thomas, I don't know, I can't pronounce his first name.
Denny? Diami?
Diami Thomas. And Cameron Esposito,
yeah.
Esposito, yeah. There's a joke going on here in the office. I only do first names. So
that's good. You'll live longer.
Yeah, sometimes just last names. But anyway, Tom, you know, you asked me a question before we started. You know, you said, you know, I'm not an Indigenous filmmaker, and I want to share that because the whole thing about our film festival is that we support our allies, right? And we consider you an ally in storytelling.
Thank you.
Yeah, and this film although it's not starring Native, but it is starring Native to us because there's Kimberly and there's Gary. And it is about Mother Earth. It's about our creatures, our butterflies. And that's all indigenous. We're on Native land. So to me, that represents a Native point of view. So the butterflies are very sacred to us, and they represent a lot to our nations. And so I definitely consider this film an indigenous film on that respect. So we always encourage filmmakers out there to submit their films. You don't necessarily have to be a Native director or anything like that, but it's encouraged that you are. But sometimes there's films like Tom's film, which is gorgeous. And I'm so excited that you made this film, and you made it about butterflies, the butterflies. Can you share with us about your movie, Tom?
Sure. So, like you said, it's called The Dark Divide. It's based on a true story and book called Where Bigfoot Walks, Crossing the Dark Divide. And we filmed it in many of the locations throughout Washington where the true story in the book took place, which is a number of like really rugged, remote locations where nobody had filmed before, probably with good reason. They were not easy to get to. And so Bob's book is really grounded in a lot of the local tribal traditions. And it's really taking a look at how we treat the land and the role of nature in our lives, but from a much more, I think, helpful place, which is the place that like the Cowlitz and the Yakima and the Warm Springs tribes come from, and how they view their place in nature, which is, being a part of it versus something to exploit. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that was just amazing as we were putting together the film was we worked with a lot of those local tribes and an arts organization called Red Eagle Soaring in Washington to really try to do our best to tell the story authentically and take a look at the people who call this area home. Like Gary Farmer's in the film. He's not playing a Native American role necessarily. He's in a position of authority. And we wanted to show that that's a place that people exist too. I hate seeing these movies and it's like, it's all a bunch of like faces that look like this. And
yeah.
Kimberly Guerrero and Diami Thomas and Harvest Moon are in another like huge scene in the movie that's about a tenth of the film. And we really wanted to just take our time and show what life is really like there. And seems to be striking a chord with people.
Yeah, absolutely. So what made you, because when we take on a film, it lives in our spirit for years, forever. And even after we've, released it and we think, okay, we're moving on to the next, it's still somewhere in your psyche. So how did you, like I directed an American Holocaust film 20 years ago. It's like, I don't want to do another film like that.
That's a lot. Wow.
Yeah, it was, was the American Indian and the Jewish Holocaust and the differences and all of that. It was an intense film, yeah. But anyway, so it lives with you, right, in your psyche. So we have to be careful what projects we take on and take a hold of. And what was your decision in making this from the book and taking this project on?
A friend gave me the book to read just about 10 years ago, and it really spoke to me. It takes place in Washington's Gifford Pinchot National Forest. I grew up not too far from there, and I spent, the first 18 years of my life just hiking and fishing and camping in a lot of the places where the true story takes place. And I live in Los Angeles now, and my son is 12, and his favorite things in the world are camping and fishing and hiking and drawing Zoom backgrounds for me, apparently. But
I love it.
It showed me what a big hole I had in my life and how much I missed not just that place that's very special to me, but nature in general. And
Mhm.
his story in the film talk a lot about the healing power of nature and how important it is to us as creatures to spend time there. And so I wanted to make this film to share a place that's very special to me, but also those themes that are very special to me with as large an audience as possible.
Yeah, so that brings up something for me, because every day, especially since the pandemic, right? And being, isolated a lot most of the time, and being on the computer, like I'm on the computer 14 hours a day, right?
It's no joke.
So
Yeah.
it's really important, even during this festival, that I leave here and go on a 2-hour hike. I must every day connect with the earth and with nature, or my body just doesn't function well. It's so I totally relate to that. Absolutely,
I mean,
absolutely.
we aren't made to sit and look at a little screen all day, right?
No,
And yeah, it's and you and I live in, I mean, we live just a couple of miles away from each other.
right,
And as you know, we have fires, we have heat, we have pollution. It's so hard to find the time and find those places where you can reconnect. But even here in smoggy, smoky Los Angeles,
yeah.
they exist, right?
They do,
So it's not just a story about this place in Washington. It's a story about your park down the street or
right,
the part of your neighborhood that still has trees along the sidewalk.
right, right. Yeah, yeah, I have definitely my Shangri-La that I go to, for sure.
Oh, good.
And you're always invited to bring your family and go on a hike with us. I
Well,
have a wolf dog, so
excellent. Well, let me know. I'm always looking for good hiking spots.
yeah, many, many trails. So you spoke about non-traditional casting, really, with
Hmm.
Gary. And I've had that happen in my career, in my son's career. He was younger, he was an actor, and that's happened for him too. He played young Neo in Matrix Reloaded. And so that does happen. And I really like that point of view, that you did that, because we're human beings. Doesn't have to be, a label.
Well, and it's, I mean, you called it non-traditional casting. To
Yeah.
me, I think of it as more realistic casting. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
you go outside or you hike through the Gifford Pinchot National Forest or
Yeah.
whatever, you run into all kinds of people. And I see this every day in the mirror. I'm kind of tired of this. Like I want to take a look at what happens when other people interact. And like Gary Farmer is a great example. I think that scene
Yeah.
is a lot better for having cast him versus the like boring, stereotypical, like old white guy,
Right.
in the role.
Yeah. And how did you present it to Deborah and David? Like, what was that process?
Um, so in each case, we sent them the script and they both responded really quickly. For
Oh.
David, he doesn't get offered a lot of dramatic roles, which surprises me. I mean, he's literally been in like 120 movies, some of the biggest
Mhm.
movies in the world. And
Right.
it was a chance for him to be the lead in a film, to take the comedy he does, but kind of ground it into a real world environment, and then take us into like those very human, dramatic moments. And the film has like some very heavy, serious, heartbreaking moments, in addition to plenty of comedy and other
Right.
adventure and things. Um, and then Deborah, I mean, honestly, we sort of sent it just to see, thinking we would
Yeah.
never get her, and she just really responded to the material. She plays a real she plays David Cross's wife in the film. She was a real person. Her name was Tia Pyle, and she died of ovarian cancer. And Deborah's mother died of cancer pretty suddenly. And I think in talking to her, for her, it was really a way to connect with what her mom went through and explore that. And I mean, some people don't know it's her when they see the movie. She just totally
Yeah.
disappears into
Yeah.
the role.
Absolutely. Well, she's a brilliant actress. Anyway.
She's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so what was it like for you to raise the funds for this. I'm always interested in getting the money. Show me the money.
Yeah, it was horrible. I mean,
I know everyone has their stories. Yeah.
it's like I've written a lot of scripts, and every script I finish and I'm like, this is the one. This is the greatest script ever. This one I finished and was just like, what was I thinking? I spent a year writing this. I mean, it's a period piece about a shy butterfly expert who takes a hike and doesn't say much. And it's all out in the woods. It's all outside, which is a total nightmare. And it has animals and fire and stunts and all this stuff. It just seemed insane. And so I stupidly spent 10 years then trying to get it made. And
see,
and I think it's like, I don't believe in luck, or I don't believe in good luck. I've had plenty of bad luck, but I mean, for me, it was about just continuing to believe in it and continuing to show it to people until a friend of mine, Jory Weitz, who's a producer on the film, is also the casting director. Jory's amazing. Like, he cast Napoleon Dynamite and Blade and worked on Dances with Wolves and Edward Scissorhands. I mean, he's a legendary guy. And I just sort of said, hey, do you want to read this crazy script I wrote? And he read it and he fell in love with it and kind of became like year 7, like our first real cheerleader who believed in it and just wasn't going to give up on it. And then I met the other producers, Aaron and Ryan, and they said a thing that no one ever says, which is, what's your craziest project? And I was like, oh, I have the perfect thing to turn you off. And they loved it. And so we just kept building that. Like, I think of it like throwing pebbles in a well, till you raise the water level.
Yeah.
I try to think of failure, not as failure, but just you haven't succeeded yet. And that's just kind of what I did for 10 years of my life until it finally got made. And we shot it up in Oregon and Washington and did it on a small crew, shoestring budget. A lot of people working for much less than they normally make, a lot of people donating things, and just kind of thugged it out and got it made.
Yeah, that's how it goes. And I've been working on a film I'm in my 9th year. And we've been close a couple of times, but then it was like, oh, this will be my, like funders would say, this will be my pet project or my whatever. And it's like, no, no, it has to feel right, because money is energy, right? It's an exchange. It's a relationship.
Well,
so, yeah.
And like you said, the movies in your life for a long time, and it's this huge experience you go through and you think about it all the time. And if it's this like poisoned thing, and we've all worked on movies like that, it does a lot of, to my mind, spiritual damage to you.
Yeah. And it can definitely turn you off to even going further, right?
Yeah.
Not me, because I'm really, really positive. And someone asked me the other day on an interview, like, you must, being a woman, being an older woman, being Native, on and on and on and on, you must get a lot of no's, a lot of rejections. And I said, yes, 99% no. And then there's that 1% that we get yes. And here we are 25 years later with our festival, right?
Right.
And it's the first time, that the trades put in a Native festival with the festival guide. That's never happened before for the entertainment industry. And that's very powerful. I could only imagine those times when I would have said, oh, never mind, I'm just going to throw in the hat. It's too hard or whatever. No. And the thing about us as directors, right, and as content creators, as creatives, is that we have to believe so deeply. And it's just this core that we have, this sense that we have, and it usually gets done. It's that other opposite, 99% of the time it gets done. There's 99% of the time at the nose, And then there's 99% of the times that it gets done.
Well, I mean, you've seen this. I mean, how many days are you like, you wake up and you're just like, I don't think I'm going to get through today. I don't know how is this going to be a movie? We lost the location, or the person is sick, or the blah, blah, it's thunderstorm. We got hit by a tornado. It dropped a tree on our crew van. A tornado landed in downtown Portland. It went one block. It knocked down one tree, and that tree crushed our crew van. I mean, and that was only like the third worst thing that happened that day. And and you just sort of keep pushing ahead, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I bet that was the first time there was a tornado there too.
That's no joke.
Really?
Yeah. It's not tornado. It's not tornado.
I know. It's like, well, it's a really, I think, right now where we're at today on so many levels, it's a really auspicious time for humanity. There's so much bad happening in the world, but something I've been thinking about a lot is, think about what an amazing thing is happening in that for the first time in human history, virtually everyone on the planet is experiencing the same thing at the same time, the same fears, the same challenges. And as human beings, we've never had such an amazing opportunity to find common ground with people. Exactly. And boy, do we need it, right? Yeah. And it's like, and it's gonna circle back to the butterfly, right? I'm waiting. Really do it. Yeah. Because it's when this whole thing started like 5 years ago, and then the last 4 years, we've been digging up all the creepy crawlers, all the stuff, and exposing everything, and shining a light on it, so that, and everyone's showing their faces, right? There's no more masks, really. It's amazing, right? Facebook is the most amazing invention ever, because everyone lets you know what they're really like when no one's around. Yeah. And so we're all looking at each other and, okay, got it. And whereas before it was just under the couch, right? We know it's there. We're not really dealing with it, but now it's in the light. And I just feel that 4 years ago, when this whole thing happened, it was like, okay, we're going to dig it up and it's going to be exposed. And then we're going to plant something so gorgeous and so beautiful, right? So we've been in a cocoon for like 4 years, and it's just now cracking, so we can become this humanity, to become this humongous butterfly. Really, that's such a great analogy, because the thing I talk about a lot with the film is, one of the messages of the film, it's about personal transformation, but it's also a reminder about how hard and how painful and how much work it is to have real change in your life, and real change in how you view the world and interact with the world and interact with other people. And just because something's painful doesn't mean you're doing the wrong thing, right? Exactly. I just rode my bike actually this morning for the first time in like months, and it hurt. My legs still hurt. And I only rode like 5 blocks, I don't know. And and it's like, there's good hurt, right? And it's and I growing think pains. Yeah, but we're all brought up to be like pain averse, right? Yeah. And it's such, you can look at what's happening now as just being horrible, and it is horrible, but the past 4 years, certainly for most people, have been pretty rough. But at the same time, what can I learn from this? It's a good time to weed out friends, that's for sure. Yeah. And know who your allies are and who they aren't. And that's like the opportunity. I find the biggest change in my life happens at times of crisis. Yeah. And that's, the last 4 years, or the last 6 months, or the last 4 weeks, right, have all had their own they've had their own challenges. But even with this pandemic, like, for whatever, I don't care about how, when, how it, it's here. It's going to be here forever. It's how we deal with it, right? But it brought up so much for me, because when it hit, I in March, I stepped back for 6 weeks and just watched what everybody was doing, and I prayed, meditated, and fasted, because I had to look at how are we going to move forward with our institute and everything that we do, right, and being of service. So I really looked at, for 6 weeks. In 6 weeks in LA, we could see the sky. Just 6 weeks. In 6 weeks, the waters were starting to heal. The Maniwaka was clearing. And I'm like, 6 weeks, can you imagine? So it's like, really, if we're awake and we're looking at this and realizing this, we have such a magnificent opportunity to really do something for the generations coming forth.
My biggest fear isn't even what's happening now, it's that we don't learn from it.
That's the thing. Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
Could you imagine all of us as mankind going through all of this and then not learning from it and not using it as an opportunity for change? That to me is the like biggest tragedy.
Okay, so I agree with you. So there's like the climate change, and then there's like the thing with the Black Lives Matter and all of this whole thing with our people of color that's happening, and it's brought to the light. And my concern on that respect in regards to the industry is there's going to be I feel there's this window right now, and we can all hold hands, humanity, and walk through it together and really learn and really engage and really do something about it. But I'm also like that, just a little bit, not too much, of there's probably just going to be a couple of do-gooders, and then we might go back to the same old. And that's what I'm praying, that does not happen. That's my big prayer, that does not happen, that there's actual change. And there really is, because look what's happening. There's actually been change.
It's amazing, right? And that's the plus, that's the like glasses half full side of what's happening. And a lot of these things you're talking about, I feel like they basically come down to my philosophy is it's sort of like everything in life boils down to me versus we, right? And it's like, am I here to benefit myself, and who cares about the environment, and who cares about my neighbor, and who cares about what's right or wrong? Or am I part of this much larger whole? And like, am I on this planet to try and make it a better place for everyone? And it doesn't take everybody doing that, right, to make change.
Yeah.
That's what's amazing. I mean, you look at all the big movements in our society, and oftentimes they're brought about by a minority of people. But if 5% of Californians or Americans or mankind decides to do something, it's probably going to get done.
Yeah. Yeah. So I totally agree. And I just feel these times are very auspicious, and it's a really such a genuine opportunity to move forward with something so incredible, so magnificent, that it's like we haven't even really. I remember, I'm just going to share this before we wrap it up. It's like years ago when my son was really little, we had ceremony, and they asked us, they said, okay, you need to ask at this time, they're here now, you need to ask and put into motion for years to come what you want to see happen. And it's been incredible. And everything they said in that ceremony is like, this is it. And it's so, being prepared is key.
And not looking to other people to solve everything, right?
No.
Like
No.
That's the thing I think about, and I a lot, which is if I need something to change, the person who's most likely to change it is me. I've spent so much of life or your career or whatever, waiting for the phone call or waiting for the this or waiting for the that. And then it's like, when you step out of your comfort zone and do the crazy thing, go out in the woods for 22 days with David Cross and through not knowing how you're going to film
and
butterflies.
Gary Farmer. No, just
Gary. Yeah. Gary was easy though. That guy's
I know. I'm
amazing.
Just teasing. I like to terrorize Gary.
It's like that's when the thing happens, is when you're just like, I'm going to do it. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I'm leaving the house and I'm gonna make it happen.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing as creatives, right? Is that I know for Red Nation Celebration Institute, for RNCI and our film festival and everything that we do, it's taking the risk and just going for it. And I have so many conversations with like business people. That's not where my head is, but you know, and they go, you can't do it until this is set up and that is set up and this is in place. And it's like, oh, well, then it's not going to happen because we're native. It's just not going to happen. So I kind of do things backwards.
There's a great analogy somebody had, which is like, you're basically starting a parade, right? And you're stepping out into the middle of the street and you're like, guess what, everybody? It's time for a parade. And then it's about getting everybody to follow you. And it seems crazy. You've done it. Like you see, eventually you look behind you and there's like a couple hundred people behind you and they're all going in the same direction. And it's kind of parade.
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you for everything you've done and for shining a light on films that might not get, you know, seen as widely. And this is great that with the pandemic happening, you didn't just close up shop this season, but instead have used it as a way to expand.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tom, for recognizing that. And one thing that I really love about all of our filmmakers is that I love I love filmmakers, I love making movies. And the one thing that I love about art filmmakers that screen at our festival is each film is so gorgeous and tells such a different story. And everyone is so talented and there's just so much talent to be recognized, to be seen, to be offered, to keep supporting, for the industry to keep supporting. And one thing that I love about the festival is that films, because we're early on of the award seasons, right? And the bigger festivals, right? Even though our festival is the largest Native festival, there's others like Tribeca and Cannes and so forth. So, but you know, the films that screen here, it's that magic thing I always like to say, is that they sometimes get, you know, nominated for an Academy.
You've had some amazing, huge films.
Yeah, or we always get all the big things, or Spirit Award, or you know, they get screened at Tribeca, or they get picked up to do other things, and it's just, I love being of service like that as a creative. I really do. That's really a big passion of mine. I love seeing people succeed and be happy and just doing their thing and making the world a better place through art.
Well, thank you for everything you do. Speaking of other films, I'm going to let you go on to the next one.
Yes.
I'm going to go on to my next Zoom because that's what we do now. That's our lives.
Yeah. So I want to thank you, Tom, for joining us. And I encourage everybody that's listening today and that will be watching this as a replay to go to rednationff.com and see the Dark Divide. And it is gorgeous. And it's about our butterfly nation. So
thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
See you next time. See you at the award ceremony.
Yeah. Or on a hike.
Yeah, on a hike.
Okay. Bye.